Hi everybody, I'm taking a look today at the big push to get more women into firefighting. Take a look at this video made by Jamal Williams, which features a female firefighter competing in an old game show.
On the game show, Fort Boyard is a firefighter.
I hope they've taught you how to knock down doors.
Definitely.
In you go.
Oh no, This is tough.
As high as you can.
Yeah.
As high as you can. As high as you can.
Take a bigger run up. She's a hard lady.
Come on, Jane.
Remember the elbow. Big run, as fast as you can.
That's
and
it,
high.
go for it.
High.
Oh.
High.
Really? So close.
As fast as you can. Well done.
Yeah, good. Oh. Jane, come out.
Come out.
Jane, that was such a great effort.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just 2 more throws and you would have been there, but that's tough for you.
A man with no firefighter training has no trouble with the same task.
It's a bit of an ouchy one, I think. Be aiming higher. That's it. He's got it. It's on the floor. Okay, brilliant. He's got the key. Come out. Yeah. Okay, fab. Brilliant.
Pretty telling, eh? I got into trouble with the feminists 2 years ago for a tweet applauding our brave firefighters, pointing out it's mainly men who are risking their lives to save others. I gave thanks for the good in men. Naturally, our media responded by madly promoting female firefighters, showing photos of the very small numbers of women actually involved in fighting the dreadful bushfires Australia was experiencing at that time. But I also heard from many firemen sending stories about the current push to attract more female firefighters. In Australia, we are currently witnessing a ludicrous campaign to push for 50% female firefighters. Prominent male bosses have taken this on as a personal crusade, like Greg Mullins, the former Commissioner of Fire and Rescue in New South Wales, who spent his last years in that job pushing this agenda.
We're nowhere, you know, we're still talking 3 to 4% of women make up our career fire service, and that's woeful. It's not something to be proud of. We do better in our volunteer stakes at around 14% of women. Why is that? I'm not sure. You know, what are the standards that we are holding people to gain entry into the service? Why do we lose so many women when they come in? You know, our retention's an issue. All of these things are more like they're questions to me, and I don't have the answers. I want the answers. We want to do better. Gender diversity and having more women represented in our fire service, to me, is an absolute no-brainer. And I've worked with many women now in the organisation. So having more women represented in our organisation, to me, is an absolute no-brainer. We just have to do it.
In 2018, he introduced gender quotas where applicants were split into male and female streams, and an equal number of the highest scoring men and women were chosen. That meant a male applicant who ranked in the 51st percentile of his gender stream missed out on a job, even if he got a better score on his tests than a female. Anyone who objected was told to look for another job.
I am particularly concerned about suggestions that we are dropping standards and employing women incapable of being firefighters. If you simply don't like working with a more diverse group, then you need to start looking for a new job.
Along with these gender quotas, there's a systematic whitewashing of the real facts about women's role in firefighting, misrepresenting their capabilities, denying the problems with smaller, weaker people struggling with very difficult physical tasks. Many women are being treated as star recruits, given an easy ride to get into the service, leapfrogging over able, hard-working men to achieve promotion, all to showcase the fire service's embrace of diversity. Firefighting is seen as one of the last bastions of masculinity, a boys' club which showcases men's toughness, courage and strength. Naturally, feminists have been determined to prove this isn't a big deal. They want to get women into the job to show there's nothing women can't do. Now, clearly there's no problem with women becoming firefighters, provided they can actually do the work. Brenda Berkman was New York's first female firefighter. A former lawyer, she failed the fitness test when she first applied, but orchestrated a successful anti-discrimination case, claiming that the tough test was deliberately designed to exclude women. She got into the service and faced an appallingly difficult time, which included receiving death threats.
There was a backlash that was going on from the conservative segments of American society that decided that the women's movement had gone too far. And what was a more perfect example of that than women in firefighting? The men would turn my locker upside down. They put a huge bra, I mean huge, I don't know where this bra came from, and it had my initials on the cups. They messed with my protective gear, they drained my air tanks, they messed with the equipment that I had to use. It really was intended to send a very clear message that you are not wanted here. This is never going to stop. And frankly, your life might be at risk if you pursue this.
So she did very well despite this shocking treatment. Good for her. Strong, tough women like Berkman have every right to do this difficult job. But what bothered me was reading an article where Berkman was interviewed about the September 11 attack. She complained bitterly about the press coverage of the heroic firemen who died trying to rescue people from the Twin Towers, saying the media only talked about firemen. She said she'd heard from firefighters everywhere complaining the media omitted women firefighters from the story. In fact, all the firefighters who died at the Twin Towers were firemen, 343 brave men. There were only 25 female fighters in the New York Fire Department at that time, compared to 1,100 men. So Berkman is talking rubbish when she claims that female firefighters are being denied recognition for their role in the heroic action of firefighters that day. It's still mainly men who are doing the really tough jobs in the fire service, as in most other careers, which are dangerous and physically difficult. Here we have a job that everybody knows sometimes requires real bodily strength and endurance, and now we have to pretend that's not so. I'm reminded of Douglas Murray in his recent book, The Madness of Crowds, where he says we're being asked to believe in things we know can't possibly be true and not to believe in things we've always known to be true. Just look at the way firefighting is now being presented. Here's Bronnie McIntosh, one of the new female stars of the New South Wales Fire Service. She's giving a TED talk on why they need female firefighters.
At a recent car accident I attended in Bathurst, I had to crawl through the side window of a crushed and overturned car to help rescue a severely injured man. His teenage daughter had crashed and rolled the car on that day while she was learning to drive. Our most senior firefighter, who incidentally looks like Mr. November, was too big to fit through the side window.
This firefighting superstar also describes with much hilarity from the audience the story of a female firefighter who's holding a man's penis while colleagues surgically remove multiple stainless steel rings from his trapped appendage. Can you imagine the reaction if a male firefighter was to make fun of a woman who got herself into trouble by sticking something inappropriate into her vagina? Women do that sort of thing. It's just that we're not allowed to talk about it. McIntosh claimed that women's skills are needed because the job is now much more diverse, with only 7% of calls involving responding to actual fires or emergencies. That was true in the year she gave that talk, with the New South Wales fire and rescue figures for 2018 to 19 showing over half the activities in the service at that time involved prevention and school visits. Funnily enough, the very next year was a different story. New South Wales saw one of the worst bushfire seasons on record and received 190,000 emergency fire calls. This was followed by massive floods in the northern rivers, where in a single day they dealt with 5,000 incidents. That's what this service is really all about, dealing with emergencies, and there's no telling when they will happen. By the way, have a look at the cover of the firefighting report that year. Almost every photo includes a female firefighter. What a joke. The spin is constant. Here's the Sydney Morning Herald arguing that although male firefighters have more strength, women have more endurance. Sure, that's why in professional tennis, male players compete for 5 sets and women only 3. One retired firefighter who was in the service for 25 years wrote to me about working well with female firefighters in the past who gained entry through the normal testing procedure. But he ran into problems when the new 50-50 quota system was introduced and the physical aptitude test was changed. He pointed out it no longer includes a ladder lift. This apparently was one of the tasks that stopped a lot of women getting through in the past. The ladder is 11 metres long and heavy, but a vital piece of equipment, he said. He also described the hose, saying that a roll of hose can weigh up to 10 kilos and firefighters may be required to carry more than one roll. When charged with water, the weight, difficulty and manageability increase exponentially. Then there's the task of joining the hose together, which my correspondent mentioned requires considerable grip strength. He mentioned a Sydney fire station which announced that the only female firefighter at the station would not be required to connect hoses. There are plenty of fire services where male firefighters now cover for female colleagues who can't do all the job. Add to these difficulties the incredibly heavy protective gear firefighters wear, which can weigh more than 40 kilos. It's acknowledged in firefighting literature that retention rates are poor for female recruits. A survey of volunteer firefighters showed that the reasons for dropping out include equipment being too heavy or stowed too high on trucks or problems with their protective gear. There's also evidence that female fighters experience higher levels of injury than male firefighters. Despite all this, the latest 2018 report on women's progress in firefighting shows women doing incredibly well. The key national management body, the National Council for Fire and Emergency Services, is now 65% women. Overall, only about 5% of Australian professional firefighters are women and about 14% of volunteer firefighters, but this report shows 29% of key management are female. Women are being systematically encouraged into the service and pushed up the ladder. The report found all promotions for Bushfire Northern Territory that year went to women. 100% of graduate hires by Tasmanian Fire Service and South Australian State and Emergency Services were women. So it goes on. It's pleasing to note there have been objections to what's happening here from female firefighters. Many of these women are concerned about all these efforts to bend the rules to admit more women, knowing that that will detract from their own achievements. In Victoria, female union members tried unsuccessfully to take legal action to stop quotas. Here's Rachel Cowling.
I've grown up around it with my father being in the job, and I believe that it is, it's not out of reach for women.
Yet despite this, Rachel was actually against gender quotas similar to that of New South Wales being introduced in her home state of Victoria. She and her fellow female union members protested the move and were part of a legal bid to stop it.
By creating a quota for female applicants, you are casting a shadow of doubt over any of these females that join in the future.
It just shows sensible men and women know that gender quotas undermine the legitimacy of competent women who work hard and do the job well. Quotas create resentment and discontent in the services. But none of this matters to male bosses busily selling out the troops to pander to the feminist mob and their lackeys in the media. That's it, folk. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my videos. You can also read my free blogs on Substack. See the link in the details below this video, as well as information about donating to help me cover costs. Please spread the word about my important work advocating for men.